One of the things with real estate that I've noticed is you have to go with where you see the vision of where you're planning to go within the year or your projected goals, and you have to continue to grow.
Hey everybody, this is Debbie Cowan again with Closing Connections with Debbie Cowan, and I am sitting here with the wonderful, sweet Maddy Franco-Sofield.
Yes.
And she is from, for those of you that don't know, she's from Sotheby's International Real Estate. Yep, and just recently moved there. Recently moved over that direction. So, when did you actually go over there?
It was October of last year.
Has it?
I know. Don't even.
It feels like yesterday. It really does.
Yeah.
So what made, because you've been in real estate for what, 7 years?
Yes, 7 years.
Okay. And
one of the things with real estate that I've noticed is you have to go with where you see the vision of where you're planning to go within the year or your projected goals, and you have to continue to grow.
Of course.
So it was bittersweet because I loved, the previous brokerage that I was in.
Were you with them from the whole?
No, I was not. I actually started at Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
And from there, I moved and I worked for properties at the Villages. So I worked for the developer.
That's right. I remember that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That was a learning experience.
Yes,
that is
I do
such a
remember
unique
that.
market, and I'm grateful for that experience. Had made some long-lasting friendships there, and then I decided to come back. The hours, it just didn't, at the time my boys were young. Yeah. And so it didn't work for my family schedule. So then I decided to come back to general real estate.
Okay.
And that's where
and how long were you there?
I was there for about, let's see, after a year and a half. No, it wasn't that long. It was about 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
So
tell me about your, what was it that changed with you as far as what do you think your niche is right now in the real estate market?
So over time, you start to feel comfortable in certain areas, and then you want to continue to challenge yourself.
Right.
So one of the main reasons why I decided to move to Premier Sotheby's was as far as their outreach, their ability to their marketing capacity. They focus on international markets. That's something that for me is a projected future goal.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you see a lot of international folks coming into our area, maybe specifically because of WEC or?
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why Sotheby's decided to see Ocala as a viable market. And they've been here now for more than, I believe, 5 years, since 2017. And so for them, that was a really telltale sign that the Ocala market is a market that is sustainable. Yeah, because they will do their market research and be able to see what in fact is going to be a promising area.
Well, I know that that seems to be with some of the brokerages I'm seeing too. Some of them are really reaching out to that international group too.
Yes.
And so I wasn't sure if that was one of your motivations, because don't you have 2 languages that you speak?
Yes,
and
I speak Spanish too.
And French?
Yeah, so French, I don't really have many people to practice with French here. It's one of those things that I find myself talking to myself. So we'll put that into practice here soon.
I'm sure. Yeah. So how do you guys market internationally? I mean, is it just a marketing campaign that?
Well, it's not only
that. Do they have international offices all over?
Very much everywhere. And so the network is really vast. And, whenever you have a listing, it goes in more than 30,000 publications.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's not just some of the third parties that you hear, some of those big brokerage, I won't mention the names of the .coms that are out there. Right. But they also are able to focus in on magazine publications in New York Times, the Edison magazine, the James edition, which are some of the big names. And one of the things that is pretty interesting is that when you're speaking about homes within a certain price point, they still read. They like to.
Oh yeah.
They like to open up a magazine and they like to see what's out there. And real estate,
see the print.
Absolutely. If they're on an airplane or on a private jet, they're going to be reading. And so that is really important still. So just kind of being able to have access to really be able to market a property that is of a small niche of people that might be interested in buying a multi-million-dollar property. They want the best of the best when it comes to being able to get their home out there. And a lot of the buyers that are looking within Marion County, even, obviously the horse industry, they're not from here.
Right.
So some of them are buying them as 1031 exchanges, or they're using it as investment properties, or just to be able to hold their money, someplace. So there's a lot of different motivations.
And there's so much right now that is going on the market, especially for the many farms that we have here, and some of the larger farms as well. I mean, we're talking multi-million-dollar properties, and so I've often wanted to ask someone that was selling those properties, because are we selling them to, are we losing some ground with the horse country mentality, or are we expanding it by, opening it up to other people to try that career choice or whatever, that lifestyle?
Well, within that lifestyle, that's something that people don't always just walk into. It's something that's passed on generationally. I would say that Marion County, with the Marion County Chamber of Commerce, they've done an amazing job to spotlight the fact that how many cents on the dollar comes from the equine industry.
Oh, right.
And so it's something that I know Marion County has, at least I've seen within the last, I've been here now 20 years, which is crazy to say. But it's something that I've seen Marion County has had some sort of identity issue, right? You have a little bit of that growth, and people that have been here for generations.
Yeah, I mean, there was more, I
don't like to see the fact that it's growing the way it is, but they're really trying to be responsible as to where that growth is happening.
Yeah.
So, Northwest is where a lot of the horse industry is located.
Right.
And there's a tremendous push to maintain that.
And I think, to that point, we've said it before in a couple of the other interviews that we've done. I mean, we have to make sure, because we are driving in all these new people from wherever they're coming from, but the infrastructure, just being able to be able to maintain the beauty of a lot of those areas too, but just really, can we control the infrastructure enough to where we have roads that will get them there, and it's a lot of people in that are influxing into our area right now.
It is. And you think about resources also. I know that.
I mean, I can imagine there's going to be a lot more restaurants and fine dining and other outside of even WEC, because that is driving that culture there with it.
And maybe even a little bit on the side of this, we're also talking about the services that are provided to the citizens of Marion County. I mean, you're talking fire rescue, talking police services, and those have been stretched because of the amount of people, and there's just not enough manpower, and the number of calls that they're getting has been increasing. So, that's
really a great point.
It really does trickle into all of those things that we take for granted on a daily. You can call this 911 and have somebody at your door.
Right.
Now think about the school system. So for me, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but I have a soft spot. I was a teacher for 9 years. In Marion County Public Schools. I was a middle school teacher.
Okay.
So that, to me, I understand that side of things and how important it is as far as resources. That really is.
And we're stretched.
Important. We are definitely stretched. I know this is not political,
but
it is. It is the reality. And sometimes I feel a little bit responsible because I'm a realtor. Right? Like, come to this great place, but slow down. But no,
just don't bring kids. I mean, just come. But no, right? No,
that's so funny. No. But right, but definitely the value is there. People have bought into the fact that they want a lot of those things that everybody wants. We can go political all day. But the truth of the matter is, people want somewhere safe. They want somewhere that they can do things.
They want some land. Yes.
Privacy.
A great place to raise their children.
They want a place to create memories. And Marion County has done that for my family.
Of course.
That's,
Me too. And it's, even with, when my kids were growing up, it was always a slower paced environment, but everyone knew your kids. Everyone, it was like Mayberry RFD. That's how it was back then. Yeah. But I always said, because when we moved to St. Pete in 2000, it was such a culture shock for us, because I always said this was a great place to raise a family. Wow. And so, and I hope that stays, and I hope that people, because one of the things that I've noticed in the lending side is that over the last couple of years, 80% of the people that I do loans for are coming from out of state. They're not just retirees, but they're families with children. Right. And so I worry about the size of the schools. In fact, Gabby and I have talked about it before. It's just the fact that they're overwhelmed. Yeah. So we've got to fix that part of it. We've got to throw that infrastructure into place, so that all that these families and people that are coming to enjoy what we offer here, they also have the ability to have still good education. They still have a good place for their children to go to school. So I didn't know you were a teacher. I just learned something today. Yes, I can't believe that.
So I
no wonder why you're so patient all the time.
Well, I taught a good portion of the time. I taught inclusion.
Okay.
And so I had gifted for a couple of years, which was a lot of fun. Those kids are awesome.
Riot. Yep.
But inclusion was really where my heart was. Those are for those that may not know, but they're students that might have certain exceptionalities. They might need a little extra time in certain things, and they come from such a diverse background. A lot of these kids, they might not have come from the most supportive of homes,
right?
And so you kind of become mom to a lot of those kids. And what's really cool is that I'm able through the years to still be in touch with a lot of those kids. Yeah. So that's the fun part.
So what made you get out of that?
Well, that's a whole other story. That was a God thing. I had an accident, actually. I had an accident, and it was a student that spilled water on the floor.
Oh.
And yeah. So I slipped and fell, and I had surgery. Didn't work. Had surgery again.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't walk for 6 months.
And, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a hard time.
Yeah. And you had your boys then?
I had my boys.
Wow.
And that was what made it extra challenging. But sometimes God will make you pause.
Yes.
And that's when you have enough time to really think about where you're at in your life. You know, sometimes we just go, and you have no time to reflect. And really that rat race it's hard to get off the wheel.
So did you find getting into real estate, the rat race was less because you had your own scheduling? You could do things. No, I was going to say,
I hopped on a different wheel.
I was going to say,
this one had lights.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know you, and so I know that there's no, there's still a rat race going on right now.
There is.
For you.
Yes. I'm more of a squirrel.
Yeah. So
squirrels are so much nicer. Rats were when I was in New York.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We pick squirrels.
Yeah, we have big squirrels. So you really didn't stop the craziness. You just got into a different crazy.
Yes. But the way how I see it, and I guess this is somewhat my philosophy, I'll have time to slow down when I'm ready. And these are the prime years of my life.
Absolutely.
This is the time to
Let me tell you,
do. And
girl, I'm a little bit older than you, and I still can't imagine. But I'm waiting for that day where I can say, maybe I'll slow down a little bit. Yeah. But then I think, really, that's not who I am. I just don't know what I would do. I honestly don't know. So one of the main reasons that we do this video, obviously, is to spotlight and highlight you, not only as an agent, but as a friend and as a personal aspect to our community. And so you've already shared so much about all the things that you've done that I learned today. I never knew about the teacher side. But one of the things that I'm so excited for you about is your induction into Women's Council Realtors, Ocala here, and you are the president-elect, right?
Correct.
So what is that, and why did you get into that, and why did you add that to your plate?
Well, I was in real estate before that. I actually didn't get involved until last year.
Right.
And the way how it all happened was, and just so you know, one of the main pieces was back then I used to also work for a nonprofit. I earned my MBA, so I have a master's in business.
I had that down there.
Yeah,
yes.
And so when I became a teacher, I was actually it was 2007. I actually started working for Pulte Homes.
Oh, okay.
And I was a customer relations liaison. Loved it. Great company. The culture was right.
Yep.
And I got laid off. And I had bought my first house on my own. I was very young.
And what year was this?
2007.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah.
Rough year.
So that was a rough year, and that was definitely a pivot year for
all of us.
For everybody, you know. Mm-hmm. And I had bought my first home, girl. I didn't want to lose it.
Nope.
I used to ride a motorcycle back in the day, and I had to sell that, and I just trying to make ends meet.
Yep.
But it was during
and is that how you got into the teacher side?
Yeah. Somebody said, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" And I said, "No, I haven't." So, but then
and it's a paycheck. It's not a great one, but it's a paycheck.
Right. But it's strange, God always provides.
Absolutely.
And that wasn't even like the biggest. That wasn't a hurdle for me. Yeah. It wasn't a motivation.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, well, I've always I love science, and so I was like, well, I can do this if I'm a science teacher. That would be awesome. And I asked my friends, and at that time, I didn't know much about the school districts or anything like that. And then I asked my friend, well, what's a good school here? Where should I apply? Yeah. But the beauty in that was that having the MBA gave me the opportunity to. They said, if you have that, you can start, and we'll give you. I believe it was 2 years at the time to become a certified teacher. So that's what I did, and so at that point,
so you got to work as a teacher at the same time
under a temporary license.
Oh wow!
And I was working at the time to get you certified.
Certified, right?
Mm-hmm. And so I started working at Osceola Middle, which was fantastic. It was a great experience. Yep. Soon thereafter, I got married. Okay. 3 months later, I was a surprise baby number 1, and or I was pregnant, and so I was like, well, maybe this will work for my family. And that's where I stood in that role for 9 years.
Okay.
And it was great. It was great. I learned. There's so many great teachers, and that's something you really. A lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you homeschool? And that was a question, quite frankly. Marion County is really unique that you can homeschool, and it's not seen with a stigma. Yeah. That's really neat.
Right.
I would say that's a freedom that a lot of people do enjoy here.
But it's also a big commitment. It's a huge commitment.
It is. It's a very big commitment, but there's a lot of resources and networks that you can plug into because it is a common sort of way of life for people here.
Right.
So that is different. I mean, when I grew up in the city, you don't do that.
No.
That's not even
right. Yeah.
So
well, it used to have a stigma too. It was weird. I mean, why don't you want your kids to go to school?
Right.
So now it's a whole different.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I had to make that call with my husband. What is it that we wanted to do with our kids? And truth of the matter is, I've always enjoyed working. I really have always, it's something that I guess I'm the youngest of 4.
Yep.
And all of us, we've always been working moms, and my brother served in the military, and he's always worked. All of us have found our niche, niche life, and and I would say that some people that you just cut out that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And nothing wrong with that.
No.
So as far as having my kids, our kids going into the public school, I felt comfortable because I was a teacher. I understood.
You knew it.
I knew how it worked. And so now having my boys in middle school, which is like crazy, they've really succeeded. And it's the fun part is that now I get to see my kids are like my students. So I'm just like, oh, I get it. I totally get it. I get the other side of things. So that part has been really fun to walk the stage with them.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking a little bit earlier about your boys and kind of what they're into, and you were talking about. I mean, when your kids are gone and you're an empty nester like me, you don't follow a lot of the stuff that's going on when it comes to what's out there available, especially in the schools. But you were just telling me about your boys are in the robotics.
Yes.
And it's a class in the school?
Yes. So it's an elective that they can take within the school. And it really allows them to be an out-of-the-box thinker. And how awesome is that?
Yeah.
What's cool about having multiple kids is you have more than one.
You have two.
Okay, you have two. They're so different.
Totally.
That's the part that's like, wow. But the cool part about robotics, which the teacher, shout out to Mr. Ness, he's awesome. He asked me, because Jeremiah is older, right? So a year older. And so he asked me, do you think that it's okay for your boys to be in the same class? Should they be in the same team? And the fun part about getting to know your kids, right? I'm like, Jeremiah is my hands-on. He's been like the Lego kid forever. Like that's always been. That's always his engineer mind.
That's how every first kid is. It is. It's amazing. Yeah. And then the baby is a whole different story.
My sweet boy. He is the one that everybody, the loquacious one, the very creative one. He's the writer.
That's how my daughter is. Yep.
You know, so that part has been really cool because even within robotics, which a lot of people think is just the technicalities. Right. You need the creative side.
Of course.
You need the ideas person. So it really has allowed them to see where their gifts lie and to be able to really develop those.
See, I love that so much. My two children are 10 years apart. My son is, and he was in the military as well. Wow. He's an analyst with the FAA now in DC. So
that's awesome. So Air Force.
He has his master. He was Air Force.
Yes, my brother too.
And my dad was 30 years in the Navy, but my son did the Air Force thing. He actually got accepted to Annapolis, and he was going to play football for him, but he fell in love and he's had a beautiful life with his wife and two children and everything. Everything worked out perfectly. Sure. But he was the A student, never had to help him with any homework. Never had to, I didn't even ask him if he did it because I just knew he did, you know? Right. And every grade was easy peasy. He was very analytical, and that's how he is to this day. Right. I don't know where he gets it from because I'm definitely not that person he is from my husband. My daughter, is just the social creative girl. Mm-hmm. She's the one that first grade, the teacher called me day one, just need to let you know that we need you to have a discussion with Kelsey to let her know that I'm the teacher, not her. And we have a little social butterfly in our hands, so yes. They are totally opposite. And it is so fun when you have the ability to watch your children go in whatever directions they're going to go, but find their passion. And my son was always about going to the academy, always flying. He wanted to be a fighter pilot. And with the Navy, he saw Top Gun when it first came out and told me, Mommy, that's what I want to do.
That's amazing.
6'5", 300 pounds probably. He said one day, do you think I'm too big to fly? And I said, if you're that good, they'll build a plane big enough for you.
I love that.
So, but he definitely went into the Air Force, and he wound up being an instructor and so and then he just lived his dream. Mm-hmm. And my daughter, who couldn't figure out, what she was going to do until she finally, I think it was her junior year, she started sailing, and she got on a sailing team. But we tried every sport, everything to get her involved to see what she liked, everything. She loved everything for the uniform, how it looked, But when she started doing it, it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hot, whatever.
Right.
So she went on a sailing. She got on a sailing team, and they became national champions. Wow. And she loved it. And when she did that, her whole brain focused on what it was she wanted to do with her life. Wow. She thought she was going to do something marine biologist, but she wound up being an RN, in ER with the adrenaline, and she's 13 years in the ER, and just feeds on that adrenaline. That's her thing. My son is just the opposite. Calm, no drama, no issues, just
predictable.
Yeah, very predictable. Yeah. So it is amazing to see when you have. But I always laugh because, especially younger girls that are having their first and second babies, and they're young, and they go, God, it was so easy with my first. I go, and that's the reason why they say you become a real parent when you have two.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, both our boys were surprises, and it was like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? You're doing the diapers. You're doing the, you're just like. But now I love it.
And how many years apart?
They're a year and 18 months.
See, my two daughters are the same way. Yeah. So I mean, her second one was the surprise. First one was planned. But that's a tough job. When you have them that young, but when they get older, I mean, they're best friends for life.
It's really cool. And I think that it's sometimes hard to appreciate it because you're tired.
Yeah.
When you're, going through those phases. But to keep in mind that children are literally a book that has yet to be opened. Like, you are discovering them
every day.
Every day.
And honestly, Maggie, when you blink and they're gone, they're living their own lives, and they're having their families, and and you watch, and you're so proud of how they do things. But everybody always said, and they said it to me too, you'll never realize how fast it goes, how fast that time really goes. It doesn't feel like it all the time when you're going through it, but man, it goes fast. And then it's just a whole different life without them being there every day. So enjoy every moment.
Thank you.
Yes,
I will
enjoy it, and I think you do. And I think you were telling me they also are musicians, and they are well at it. They do well at it.
Yes, they are. I hate to brag, but okay.
It's okay. That's what you're allowed to do. Yeah, that's what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to do that with your kids. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm really proud of them. You kind of, like you said, they were into all these different things, and that's part of it. It's just like, let's
finding
see,
it, finding the passion.
What's the passion? What do you like to do? You put them in all these different activities and things. But as far as music, Jeremiah, he plays the saxophone, and Elijah plays the trombone, and they're doing super great. They were both in all district band, and then Eli was chosen for all state.
So do you have them at home? Like, are they practicing all the time?
They actually, like, if I showed you a video last night, I was like, come on, I want to hear it. What do you guys got? Like, let's hear the jam session. Okay. So they do. They practice at home.
And you play the piano, you said?
I do, yes.
So do you play with them?
I have.
Okay.
I don't do it as often as I should.
Okay.
But as far as doing the little trio, especially around Christmas time.
Aw. Well, we were talking, and we got sidetracked because of me, but
the Women's Council.
Women's Council. Going back to Women's Council.
Yes.
You just got involved in it. Was it last year?
Last year. And yeah, that was really something. Speaking about kids and everything, you kind of have to see when's the right time to really get a little bit more involved.
Right.
And that was really strategic.
Did somebody pull you into it?
Well, I actually this is a crazy story.
Okay.
We were looking for an investment property for myself and, my husband, and going through downtown, just driving around, saw for sale by owner, called it for sale by owner. And I was like, I know this person, because I was leadership Ocala Marion. I was part of I was Class 20 president. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I knew this person, and we're talking and all of it. And he's like, hey, are you going to go to this event tonight? It was around Christmas time. I was like, no, I wasn't planning on it. And he's like, well, come on by. And truth of the matter is, up to that point, I was just working, doing my business,
and taking care of your family.
That was it. That's all we had time for, right? Those are the slots of life. Yep. And so I remember asking my husband, I was like, what do you think? Should I go there? He's like, go. So I went, and that night was when I saw somebody else part of the Women's Council, and she and I go way back. One of the first people I met in Marion County.
Really?
Yes.
Who is it?
Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I love her.
Yes.
And so she had the pin. And I was like, oh, how fun. What's that? That's how I started. And she was like, you don't know what this is? She was like, she grabbed my hand and introduced me to somebody outside.
Aww.
And then they had, within the next week, she was like, why don't you come to this event? And it was like a membership drive sort of thing.
Yep.
So that was my first exposure.
Oh my gosh.
And then after that, I was like,
well, I knew.
Where has this been?
I know, because I've been a part of it now, I think 11 years now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you were just there. And then next thing I know, you're president-elect. And I'm like, that was probably the fastest person I ever saw get that position.
Right.
So yeah, now you just decided that,
well, this is how
you're going to do it. You're going to do it.
Well, yeah, pretty much. But it's also, I decided, I was like, okay, well, this is where I'm at. You know, being a realtor is really a really interesting sort of career because you're with people, but you're not. You're very much alone.
Yes, a lot of the time.
A lot of the time you're alone, and which is fine. I'm okay with people or without people. It's all good.
Right.
But definitely the Women's Council, what I saw was this missing piece of, oh wow, there's, you know, it was cool was meeting some of the big people that for the last years I've seen them in listings.
Right.
Like, oh, you're so and so. Now I have a face to name, and then now it kind of eases some of the stress when you're going through a transaction when you know the other side.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
So I felt like for me it was a missing piece. It was a way for me to be able to not be such a lone ranger.
It is an amazing group, whether it's, you know, because there's some guys that do it too, but you know, whatever. But I'm just we let them in, yeah. But it is, you know, and that's the one event, that's the one group that I've actually stuck with.
Oh, cool.
And over the years, because it's not just about real estate, it's about relationships, it's about friendships. I mean, I know I've seen it myself over the years that the caring, if somebody's sick or somebody's having you know, something going on, it is a true friendly, centric environment that everybody feels welcome and everybody feels good to go, you know. And I know there's been some building, and I think this group that's currently in, I mean, I've preached it. I know Gabby will tell you, I know I have, but I do it to everybody. It's all about the leadership group that's in place, is how that group survives and continues on, because they've had some great leadership, you know, over the years. And but I mean, if I was at the event the other night that we were at, a Young Professional Network, and I was talking to a couple of agents and telling them about WCR, and you know, they were asking, well, what's different about it? You know, why should we do that versus this or whatever else? And I said, you just need to come once. If you come once, you'll see the difference, because it's hard to explain.
It is.
That, you know, it's hard to explain what all that you get out of it, because it's not just, oh yeah, there's a speaker this time, or there's a breakfast for this or whatever. It's unique in itself too, because it's not charity driven, in the sense that you're always, you know, not that there's anything wrong with being charitable. And I know that we do things that are charitable too, but that's not all that it's about. It's all about networking. It's all about building support with one another, building each other up in this business. And I don't think anyone does it better. I just have to say that. So congratulations for getting that. And I'm glad you're part of it now, because you bring a lot to it.
Oh, thank you. And you know, one of the big pieces I would say for those that might be realtors that are actually looking at and watching this episode is, it really is a place for you to also grow as an individual. If you're interested as far as your leadership abilities, you know, you said, how did you move up so quick? You just say yes. It wasn't my intention. You know, there was a couple of events that you know, helped out in, and wherever you see a need, you kind of you're there. And I was approached for the position because somebody else, you know, wasn't able to make that time commitment. And so, I mean,
now are you when you're in this position that you're in now, are you preparing for next year already? So you have to kind of,
very much so, from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so you're already on it.
And the biggest thing that I have learned is it's not about you. Leadership is not about you.
No.
Being a leader is looking at those around you and what gifts do they have that you can help develop. And I think a lot of people get that wrong.
Absolutely.
So it becomes a power hungry situation. Like, yeah, you know, you can have titles and the rest of it, but through the years you learn that, so what happens when you're gone? What is the legacy when you're no longer in that position?
Were you that person that years down the road, when they say the past presidents stand up and they remember the value that you brought to them personally and to the group? Yeah. I mean,
it's helping people get out of their shell. You know, there are different things throughout that we do in the beginning to acknowledge a lot of our strategic partners. And thank you, because you're also a strategic partner. And, it's in those moments that you have some people that, are really shy, have them say the Pledge of Allegiance, them, and slowly but surely they start to feel
getting
more
confident.
And it's beautiful to watch.
Well, you're right. I know, because you're right. I see it, I think even you're never that way, though. I mean, you're just, you're very comfortable. You just kind of go up there. But I often wonder, when you become president-elect or VP-elect or whatever, are you actually preparing for what your duties are going to be next year? And
yes, so they've made, right now, our current state president, Charmaine Hickey, she's amazing. And they have, within the last couple of years, done an amazing job to really structure the Women's Council to be somewhat predictable. These are the roles, these are the duties of each role.
Okay.
Putting that on paper, letting people know this is what you're working for. And really it is going into this role is truly a 2-year commitment, because
because you've got this year and next year.
This year and then next year. So you're already, thinking about how you're going to fill the bench, who is going to be the president-elect for the following year, and who that's part of your new membership is going to fit for a membership director, or where are those gifts? What can So yes, that's a conversation that I've actually had several times already, and so when people are ready to answer that call, it is a time commitment. Like anything else.
Everything is, right?
Everything is. But you have to figure out, okay, well, what's the opportunity cost?
And is there a value? Right. So looking into the camera, you're president-elect for WCR. Why is it important? What is one of the most special gifts that WCR offers to new agents that are considering, joining up with WCR? What do they get from it?
As far as a new agent, what I wish I would have done is I wish I would have known about this 7 years ago. And the beauty in Women's Council is you are allowed to have already, especially a lot of people that are coming new into town, you have access to so many excellent strategic partners, vendors that already are now part of your,
Rolodex.
Your Rolodex.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And that's exactly what I told the girl the other night. I said, you don't know home inspectors, you don't know, appraisers or whatever.
Right.
And I said, when you come here, they've already been vetted.
Yes.
We know who they are. And we can give the recommendations, and that should be a big win. But I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. And that's a big win. That's a big win just professionally. We actually have somebody that is now, working as the events director, and she's amazing.
Yes, she
came from Texas, so she was familiar with the Women's Council over there. And the first thing that she did when she came here, she says, I need to get plugged in, because she saw the value.
Yep.
She knew that was going to be important for her to grow her business and also be able to grow, personally.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like meeting, and this is the cool part for me, when I last year went to my first, which by the way, all these years I had never gone to an actual realtors conference, national conference.
Right.
They have what's called PMN course. And so that's Performance Management Network. And it's a certain designation that you can work towards if you are within the Women's Council.
Okay.
And the beauty in that is that on a professional level, if you have PMN as part of your letters,
right,
there are other agents from all over the world that are also Women's Council members that refer
which is beautiful,
which is wonderful.
Yep.
I mean, that is just an extra, an extra plus.
Yeah.
So the cool part was that we were there for 3 days before the actual national event happened. So you had all of these women and, sliver of guys that were part of the Women's Council in different areas. And there was this camaraderie. Yep. There was a welcoming. There was a high.
I saw the pictures. Yeah.
There was you meet everybody. And because you're part of this, there's this culture that resides within the Women's Council. And the neat part was to see how different it was the next day when you had all of these other realtors that come in and, stone cars. The sort of business. And you can be both.
Yeah.
You can do both. You can be nice and still be in business, But just seeing how that culture didn't spill over to the other side with those that are not part of the Women's Council, it was really evident. I never saw it that way until I was actually see it on a national level. All these people coming in. So after that, I said, "Oh, there's a lot more to this."
There's a reason. I mean, that's a big. I mean, I think for me personally, I see it. I mean, that's why I've stuck with it as long as I have. I mean, it's just it's very evident that there is a relationship part of the association that it's a true relationship.
It's true.
It's true.
That's so true. Yeah, actually, before this, I had Christy coming over to my house. Let's have coffee, a little French press, and we had to talk about Women's Council stuff. But it's just you just develop these
relationships really and friendships. Yeah. I mean, I think of Linda Arvanitas.
She's amazing.
She's the first real estate agent that I met when I moved here from St. Pete when I worked for Wells Fargo. And she's the first one that she did the first interview with me on this. Yeah.
Oh.
And so she's near and dear to my heart. I mean, in so many ways, for so many reasons. Yes. But when I remember her, when I met her back in 2010, I think it was, and I remember how she was, who she was. She was an agent just like everybody else, and how Women's Council enveloped her and then made her almost a rock star, in her, I mean, we all know in her own mind, Linda thinks she's a rock star anyway.
Because she is.
But it is, if you knew her when she first started here, when I met her, as to where she is today, and I know she gives Women's Council all the credit. I mean, I know she does. Wow. But it just opened up her world. I mean, and here's, and right now we live in a community that isn't the little, Mayberry RFD that once was.
Ocala, as people call it.
Ocala, right? It's not that anymore.
True.
And so, I mean, if I were telling people, which I do all the time, if there's some place to meet with like-minded people that have the same goals, that are professionals, however, still have a heart, through it, go to Women's Council. Yeah. So I'm a proponent. I preach it all the time. So hopefully next year for you, I hope it's going to grow bigger and get better. And anything I can do, I'm always willing to help.
Thank you, Debbie.
Of course, you're welcome. I think we're almost wrapping up, but the only other last thing I wanted to ask you, because I thought it was it's important as well, that we give a plug in for your husband, who has his own business as well, right?
He does.
And you want to tell a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, I don't know if you saw, but newsflash, he got inducted to be the chaplain for Marion County Fire Rescue.
No. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Happened last week.
Because he was a firefighter, right?
Yes. So he's retired 19 years.
Oh my gosh. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Marion County. So,
congratulations.
Thank you.
That is an amazing thing.
It is. It's amazing.
God is great.
God is great. And, it's just been beautiful to see how it, little by little, nobody knows their journey and how all the puzzle pieces start to fit together.
And they need him. They need him. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's been really amazing.
So did he already start it? I mean,
so he is this month. He's training.
Okay.
And so the coolest part that happened to him the other day, well, it's bittersweet, but 19 years. You call dispatch, and or they call you, I should say, for certain calls.
Right.
And then when you're out on a call, they're there for you as far as support and that sort of thing. And so he went to where dispatch is for the first time, and there were some very, very tough calls that he had throughout the years, and he got to meet, the people that were on the other side of the line during those calls.
I got goosebumps. Oh.
Yeah, and for them to look at him, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're Sofield," That part for him, it was really like, wow.
That is so cool.
You know what that is? To hear the same voices for 19 years and not see the face.
And know that they were integrated.
That they were part of
the life-saving event.
Some of the,
hard
tragedies
stuff.
And so, God has a place for everyone. And so he does a lot of things, I'll say, because he also has a leather business.
Yep. That's
Sofield Leather. .com. And might as
give him a
well
plug.
give him a
Yes.
plug. But really, for him, it was a business born out of necessity. Wearing the gear, not being able to, you have the issued suspenders and that sort of thing, and when you're on these calls, they start to drag, and everybody's pulling up their pants. And so, he and another friend at the time, he was also a fireman. They were just brainstorming like businesses and that sort of thing. And then Sofield Leather, they're like, hey, how about we, create leather suspenders and do that sort of thing. So he is a type of person that will learn anything. And he learned completely on his own how to do it.
Wow.
And so he ended up, taking the reign. And
now, does every firefighter have leather suspenders now?
A lot of them do, which is fun to see.
Yeah.
And the cool part was that now he trains other. He has a Sofield. He has a YouTube channel, and so with the YouTube channel, he will go ahead and teach other people how to do it. So he sells templates on how to do it. He sells standard kits because a lot of people. I mean, we've had orders from Australia, from Canada, from Hawaii, from across the pond. He has his following. It's a really niche market.
Yep.
And the fun part is seeing a lot of those emails that he'll get. Thanks so much. I was, people are suffering from depression. Other firemen,
I know,
and they find that they can love this craft, that they can do something on their own, and he's able to teach them.
Well, I love that. My daughter's husband is a firefighter.
Oh, cool.
In Pinellas, and so I know the lifestyle. I know the toughness of what these guys go through every day. Right. So my heart. I'm just so I'm so grateful that he got that position as chaplain, because, like I said, I know we're struggling a little bit here in Marion County. So that is definitely needed.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Well, Maddy, I have so enjoyed talking to you today, and I'm so glad that you came in. And I hope that everybody out there uses Maddy, and God bless your husband for doing what he's doing and your family. And here's to a very successful 2023 for both of us.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thank you, Debbie. All right.